Okay, so first things first, I want to sincerely apologize to you guys for uploading this video wicked late. Because I was down on vacation in Cape Cod this past weekend, so I didn't get to see this movie until I got back. But hey, if anything, it's giving all of you more of a chance to see it, right? So now that I have finally seen Southpaw, let's talk about it. So this movie centers around Jake Gyllenhaal, and he lives a pretty awesome life in this movie. He's a 43-0 boxer. He's married to Rachel McAdams. They have a 10-year-old daughter together. And in the very beginning of this movie, he wins the World Light Heavyweight Championship. And I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking, oh, so this is what Floyd Mayweather would be like if he wasn't a scumbag piece of shit human being. But also notice, in his first fight, when Jake Gyllenhaal is boxing, he takes some really nasty hits throughout the fight. The end of each round always leaves him bleeding a lot and everywhere. And what's awesome, but also kind of insane, is that Jake Gyllenhaal just completely embraces it. This guy just fights completely psycho. He's taking hits left and right, and he just keeps on ticking. You can tell by the look on his face that he gives his opponent in his first fight. He's basically all like, yeah, that's right. I'm bleeding out of my eye, and I don't give a shit. I'm just that awesome. So if you want to just fall down before I knock you the fuck out, you can do that too. After he wins the fight, however, Rachel McAdams, as supportive as she is to him, also feels it's time for him to officially retire. He completely agrees with her, and he even rejects a 3-fight deal his manager, played by 50 Cent, offers him. However, later on that night at a charity event, he gets called out by this up-and-coming boxer whose goal is to just get a shot to fight Jake Gyllenhaal. He ignores this asshole for the most part until this guy makes some comments directed towards Rachel McAdams. She tries to tell Jake Gyllenhaal, hey, forget him, don't worry about it, let's just go home. But of course Jake Gyllenhaal does what any married man would probably do if some other guy called out his wife. He turns around and just gets into a big fight with this guy. And watching him just like, yeah, I can't really blame him for that. But then this boxer's brother pulls a gun out and accidentally ends up shooting and killing Rachel McAdams. So after watching that whole scene and it hitting me right in the feels, I originally thought, okay, so that's going to be the really sad moment that occurs in these types of movies. And now we're going to see Jake Gyllenhaal grow as a fighter and also as a father to his daughter. Yeah, it turns out I wasn't quite right, and it actually gets much worse than that. After that whole incident, Jake Gyllenhaal has developed some problems with drugs and alcohol, which eventually leads to him suffering his first loss in his boxing career, which ended out of frustration, he punches and knocks out one of the refs. So now on top of his wife dying, he's now suspended from boxing, he has lost all of his income, and 50 Cent even tells him that he's leaving him to go work with the boxer that essentially caused his wife's death. And now at this point in the movie, I'm just shocked that of all the tattoos Jake Gyllenhaal has for this role, he doesn't have one tattooed on his chest in huge lettering that just says, I can't catch a fucking break in this movie. But hey, he does still have his daughter, so that has to count for something, right? Yeah, it does, until he drives intoxicated, crashes into a tree, and almost dies. So now he gets taken to court where they rule it is not safe for his daughter to be in his custody. So they take her away and they place her into Child Protective Services. And it was at this point I'm starting to feel the movie's trying way too hard here. Because it seems like the movie just feels it needs to take everything away from Jake Gyllenhaal in order to make us feel for him and get emotional for him. But I honestly felt that hurt this movie more than it helped it. Because if you're gonna use sadness in a movie, you also need to make sure there's still a sign of hope and happiness in Jake Gyllenhaal's life that's gonna help get him through this. So when the movie feels it just needs to bring him down to the lowest of lows, it makes you lose faith in him and in the movie itself. You cannot let that happen. Luckily at this point though, Jake Gyllenhaal is at least finally able to start getting his life in order. He goes to a boxing gym run by Forrest Whitaker. He's a retired boxer. He used to be one of the best professional trainers in the business. Jake Gyllenhaal is able to get a job there. He ends up bonding with one of the young kids there who's aspiring to be a boxer. And after some persuasion, he's even able to get Forrest Whitaker to train him. And the whole point of Forrest Whitaker's training is to get Jake Gyllenhaal to learn what he's always been lacking throughout his career: defense. He points out the fact that since Jake Gyllenhaal just takes all these hits that he does without defending himself whatsoever, one way or another, in the ring or outside the ring, it's gonna take a toll on him. I mean, he's teaching him how to block, how to elude punches, and all that is really cool to see. But it did have me raising some questions. Because I actually was involved in martial arts for a very long time. I trained and I fought competitively. And one of the most important lessons we were always taught was, it does not matter how good your ability to attack is if you do not know the right way to defend yourself. You must have both of these if you're going to become the best fighter you can be. And now you're going to try to tell me that Jake Gyllenhaal went undefeated 43-0 without really knowing much defense? Sorry, movie, but I'm not buying what you're trying to sell. So his training is going good. He's able to hold down his job, too. So now it leaves you thinking, alright, this movie's starting to turn around a bit. That's good. But apparently, one step forward is just 2 steps back. Jake Gyllenhaal tries visiting with his daughter again, and obviously she is completely furious with him after the way he acted after Rachel McAdams died. Even at times refusing to see him when he does visit, and when he does at one point, she blames him for everything and says he should have died. Again, this movie is clearly going way over the top with the emotion factor. It almost made me feel like the movie thinks we're too stupid to realize that Jake Gyllenhaal is going through a really shitty time. It's like, alright, Southpaw, I'll admit I really don't have much faith in humanity either, but we're all smart enough to understand that his life sucked when his wife was killed. Thank you very much. So eventually Jake Gyllenhaal gets a fight at a charity event to hopefully at least resurrect his career, if anything. He wins the fight, and he even gets offered by 50 Cent the chance to fight the boxer from earlier in the movie. And of course, Jake Gyllenhaal views this as a chance to win his daughter back, get his career back, and above all, beat the shit out of the boxer who basically screwed his whole life up. Forrest Whitaker, though, he refuses to train Jake Gyllenhaal because he feels the fight would be solely based upon revenge. However, the next day, he changes his mind, and Forrest Whitaker now has the motivation he feels he needs to train Jake Gyllenhaal. And you know why that is? Because you know that nice kid I mentioned earlier that Jake Gyllenhaal was bonding with once he joined the gym? Well, we now find out that that poor kid was killed by his abusive father after he was defending his mother. Wow, just wow. Are you kidding me? I honestly think at this point one of the writers is just being a dick here. I mean, really, they were probably thinking, hey, you know what? I don't think we've made the audience cry enough, so let's kill off that kid that everyone likes too. I mean, really though, what was the point in that happening? I mean, was killing that kid off really that necessary for the plot of this movie? They could not just have Forrest Whitaker just agree to train Jake Gyllenhaal. Ugh, this movie just really doesn't seem to know when enough is enough. So now we get into a montage of Jake Gyllenhaal training for the fight, which is accompanied by Eminem's single, Phenomenal. I love that song, and I just think it's so awesome just how it was written to work with this movie, and it worked so well. So now we get to the night of the fight, and Jake Gyllenhaal has allowed his daughter to come with him to see it, despite of how violent it could probably get. And the fight's been going a bit back and forth, so that definitely made it a lot more thrilling, which was good. And you can tell Jake Gyllenhaal using more defense in this fight has really made him a much better boxer. It's starting to intimidate the other boxer to the point where he now makes comments towards Jake Gyllenhaal about Rachel McAdams' death, you know, taunting him about it, and he even at one point hits Jake Gyllenhaal below the belt. Wow, dude, are you kidding me? One of his trainers should have gone up to him and just said, do you really need to be such a pussy to try to win this fight? However, this time, Jake Gyllenhaal does not let it get to him. He's able to really wear this other boxer down, and on a very narrow decision, Jake Gyllenhaal wins the fight. Jake Gyllenhaal and his daughter hug, you know, she forgives him for what had happened. They say they love each other, she accepts him back into her life as her dad, and the movie ends. So all in all, I will say Southpaw was not a bad movie. I mean, the acting was great. Jake Gyllenhaal was awesome in this movie, per usual. And I certainly like the premise of it. It's how you pick yourself up after a fall that makes you who you are. However, this movie certainly could have dialed back a little bit on the depression factor. As the movie kept going, it just started to sway more from you feeling bad for Jake Gyllenhaal to honestly the point of it seemed like no return. As in, like, not even the happiest ending ever will help you get over what happened in the movie. Had they maybe left the movie at Rachel McAdams' death being the only real low point for Jake Gyllenhaal, and made everything else a lot less sad or even just more of a positive motivation for him, this movie could have been great. But nope, that just wasn't enough for them. I'll put it this way, it kind of feels like you're in a boxing ring with this movie. And the movie's just completely beating you across the face like, Jake Gyllenhaal's life sucks in this movie! And unfortunately, there's no referee to stop this fight here for you. You're just hoping it gets tired and eases up soon. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.